Something else that came up during the meeting, Wolf, are these threats that some of these holdouts are now facing because of their vote against Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan, of course, has denounced those threats, and during the meeting, he denied that he has any involvement in what has been an outside conservative pressure campaign at targeting some of these holdouts.
What's happening over there on the Republican side? I mean, you've seen members who were against Jordan talk about threats they've gotten, that their spouses have gotten. I mean, this fighting on the Republican side is getting ugly. There are pressure campaigns on other Republican members now. I mean, this is horrible stuff. And again, the cost is they've shut down the House, and we really can't do anything.
Welcome on Democracy with FP Wellman. I am your host, Fred Wellman. We are broadcasting from the beautiful suburbs of St. Louis, Missouri. As always, it is crazy. Well, just everywhere, not just here in St. Louis, but also in D.C. more than ever. Of course, the Middle East is a conflagration, which no one wanted to see. So we got a lot to talk about. We got a great guest to talk about it with. So let's just get on with the show. Man, welcome once again. Welcome to On Democracy. FP Wellman right here on the MeidasTouch Network and wherever you get your podcast fix. Man, it has been a crazy week. I do have kind of a funny note to start off with. I don't know if you remember, but last week I started this show off with an apology to the clown community for calling the Republican House caucus a clown show, a clown wagon, clown convoy and all. And you have to love it. I actually got an email. I'll read this to you guys. We'll put it up on screen. But it says, I want to take a minute to reach out and thank you for your apology to the clown community. It's an easy shot to use clown and circus as derogatory declarations. But for some of us, circus and clowning is what we do. Sincerely, Steve Smith, former director of the Ringling Burroughs and Barnum and Bailey Clown College. So Mr. Smith, thanks for reaching out. It's the least I can do. It is embarrassing how bad the DC crowd is behaving, and it is unfortunate that clowns are being associated with them. Since the clowns, as I mentioned before, do actually provide public service to the United States and the world, whereas the Republican House caucus doesn't. So there you have it. Anyway, chaos does reign in Washington, D.C. Meanwhile, Joe Biden and his administration are flying around the world. They're building coalitions. They're making deals. They're getting stuff done. 4 weeks. 4 weeks, same opening. I don't even delete it. It's the same. Matt's laughing. I had the exact same script every week for the last 4 weeks. That is the same script for 4. And this week is true again. Chaos reigns in D.C. Joe Biden was just in Israel, making coalitions, making deals, a very, very difficult conflict to navigate. He's doing a brilliant job. Can it be perfect? Not in a world like this, but you have to give the credit to the administration. Mr. Blinken has been working overtime, flying around the world. It is a really exciting time. And of course, D.C. is truly in chaos, with the House Republican caucus unable to pass or nominate or I guess approve a Speaker of the House. It continues. We're now almost 2 weeks and not having a Speaker of the House. The clock is ticking on a lot of important things, from Israel to a potential government shutdown. All this is happening as the world is on fire, and they simply can't get it done. And of course, they always blame Democrats. I got a great guest to talk about with us. Actually, we're very fortunate to have a congressman with us who's going to answer all those questions. And I'd love to we'll have Congressman Chris Deluzio join us. Congressman Deluzio lives in Aspinwall with his family, Western Pennsylvania, currently serving his first time in Congress. He represents Pennsylvania's 17th district, a fellow veteran, Iraq War veteran. He's a Naval Academy graduate, though I don't hold that against you, Congressman. Voting rights attorney and union organizer. Congressman Deluzio was commissioned as an active duty surface warfare officer in the Navy. He deployed 3 times, including a tour of duty as a U.S. Army civil affairs officer in Iraq. Like me, I did that myself. He is received after he got back. He got his law degree at Georgetown, did some clerkships, did some union organizing. Now he's serving in Congress, where he's a great voice for the veteran community, serves in the Veterans Committee. Congressman Deluzio, welcome to the show. Congressman, welcome to the show. It's great to have you. I know it's a little crazy on Capitol Hill right now. I can't imagine what you're dealing with right now. It is just crazy. I literally was preparing for this interview and had these great questions lined out, and then chaos continues. If those who watch the show know, we're recording on Thursday afternoon in the middle of this. The latest, as my understanding, I'd love to hear it, is Jordan's said he's not going to do a vote, but he's sort of backing McHenry. But then we got McCarthy saying he's not going to do the pro tem thing. Can you tell us, do you know what the hell's going on up there, sir?
I think your question tees it up. It's chaos over there. It changes from like hour to hour. I mean, certainly day to day. The latest we were hearing is that Jordan would give it another attempt on the floor, which seems crazy to me. Who knows? And like the headline is, it's chaos, right? Republican majority, they can't govern. I mean, the fact that they got Jim Jordan on the floor, close to being second in line to the presidency. I mean, this is a guy who tried to overthrow the election, who was a co-conspirator, insurrectionist. I mean, my goodness, you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
And, the bottom line is they can't govern. And they've really made no reasonable effort to come work with us. And we're willing to find some sensible path out of this, but they seem to be doubling down on just the craziness.
And that was my next question. Have we heard any real conversations with your colleagues across the aisle that to find options out of this? I mean, they love to go on camera and say it's your fault. Of course, 208 Democrats did this, which is comically stupid when we know it was actually Matt Gaetz. I mean, is there really true? I mean, I have a lot of folks will come at me in the comments and reply, say, well, maybe the Dems should work. I'm like, yeah, sure. What's the plan? It's like, are they actually making an effort? We don't just randomly do that, right?
Look, I'm not seeing much of any good faith effort over there. I mean, my colleagues on the Democratic side, up to Leader Hakeem Jeffries, in public op-eds, in private communications, have made crystal clear. We are extending a hand, friendship. We will work on a bipartisan deal. Let's negotiate it. And instead, what the Republicans are doing is, sending up Scalise, sending up Jim Jordan, fighting amongst themselves. I mean, it's now 16 days when we're recording this since we've had a speaker. Jeez. It's nuts. And, we're not backing down from the only path out of this is working with us as Democrats. That's what the Republicans ought to do because it's the right thing for the country, right? That is ultimately what we're talking about here. Yeah. And it's just, it's too bad because they're going to hurt a lot of people. They paralyzed the House. We can't do anything on Israel. We can't do anything on humanitarian relief. We can't do anything on Ukraine. We can't do anything to work on a budget to get us out of avoiding a shutdown the 17th. We can't do anything for my constituents of Western Pennsylvania or anybody else in this country because they have paralyzed the House. That's the real pain in all this.
And negotiations don't occur on Fox News or on Twitter, right? Those occur in the cloakroom, right? They occur in the offices, right? And it just seems like they don't really seem to understand, which you said very from the beginning, is they just don't want to govern. They don't understand that governing isn't sound bites or clever quips, is it? I mean, governing is actually in a room where we talk to each other.
Yeah. And look, I think they're majority right now, and they're in charge. They're in charge of the House. Right. It's their majority. It is an ungovernable one. And we saw that when the speaker election took 15 rounds in January. Yeah. And we've seen it each step of every crisis they've taken us to, the debt ceiling, government shutdown, and now another speaker crisis. Yeah. And it's Democratic votes that have kept the House from imploding on these big issues. Yeah. More Democratic than Republican votes got us through the debt ceiling crisis the Republicans put us in. More Democratic votes than Republican votes got us out of a government shutdown that the Republicans almost put us in. They're not able to govern without Democrats. And we keep saying, I'm saying this in friendship, I'm saying this in the spirit of putting our country first. Come meet us. We'll put together a deal. We'll have some kind of coalition. I'm not just throwing up buzzwords. Like, this is what we need to do for the country. Yeah. I've been saying it privately. I said it in an op-ed with Pat Ryan, who's I won't hold it against him. He's a West Pointer.
Come on now.
That's all right. Look, we really mean this. Come work with us. It's the only way through it.
That's what you said. I mean, and you guys were very clear. Like, we're time to be less politicians and be more patriots. It's time to put aside these things for the good of the country, because that's really the whole point. All of you were elected to go there and represent us. It's a constant frustration for me because it seems like a lot of the folks, especially on the other side of the aisle, have truly forgotten that the name and the building says representatives. You know what I mean? It's like, how are you representing your folks? I live in near Ann Wagner from Missouri too, who on Friday was hardcore. No way, Jim Jordan, absolutely not. By Monday, she was, no, he's cool. It is a constant battle of saying one thing, doing another, and I can't imagine what it's like to walk the hall. And this is your first term, sir. You've been there a year. You're not even a year yet. Right? Not even a year yet. And how much gray hair you got?
Not many yet. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
It's a matter of time. I was beautifully brown hair until I joined the Lincoln Project. But no, and that's the thing. And so, having said all that, what do you see as a path? Is there a path, or what is the path? I guess I'm trying to kind of dig into you. You guys had a caucus meeting today. What are you guys saying? If you can share any of that with us.
Look, a lot of these deliberations internally are exactly that. So I'm not going to go spill the beans on.
Come on now, give it up.
Internal
I got a show to sell here, sir.
Yeah, but listen, I mean, the basic thing that we've been saying, and I'm saying and others, is the Republicans, whether it's a handful of sensible ones or a bigger group, whatever it is, they got to come work with us.
Yeah.
And the parameters of that we can work out, right? We're not going to have some insurrectionist lead the House.
No.
We're not going to offer our support for something crazy like that.
Yeah.
We got to work something out that keeps the House open, that we can avoid these crazy government shutdown and default crises the Republicans have put us through, that we can do the things we got to do on the budget deal we worked out over the summer with the debt ceiling, and that we can support our friends abroad and tackle some problems at home.
Yeah.
That's all obvious stuff. And I think some sensible Republicans ought to come with us. And by the way, what's happening over there on the Republican side, I mean, you've seen members who are against Jordan talk about threats they've gotten, that their spouses have gotten. I mean, this fighting on the Republican side is getting ugly. There are pressure campaigns on other Republican members now. I mean, this is horrible stuff.
Yeah.
And again, the cost is they've shut down the House and we really can't do anything.
And the acrimony amongst themselves is getting only deeper and makes it all more impossible. And hopefully something will break. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I do find encouragement that some of them are standing up to the bullying, saying, no, you're not going to bully me into this. And it's interesting to see them go on Fox News and actually argue the Fox host, say, no, dude, I'm not playing that. But that's a very small crack of sunlight in a very dismal situation.
Yeah, and there are only about 20 or so who voted against Jordan yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about anything resembling a majority of House Republicans. Most of them, the vast majority, were more than willing to make Jim Jordan second in line to the presidency, which is just nuts to think about.
And names I respect, and I won't name names in this because but I've lived in a few places over the years. You know, I was an Army guy, and it's just like, geez, seeing some people I used to respect because dirty secret, I was a Republican until Trump. It's just heartbreaking, it really is to see that break down. Now, having said that, let's talk about shutdown. I mean, the clock is 45 days was not enough. Now we're right at 30, aren't we? I mean, and the whole thing starts over again. I mean, this feels worse than it did a month ago, doesn't it?
Well, it feels worse because we're wasting every single legislative day until the speaker crisis on the Republican side is fixed, right? Yeah. We can't take up anything around funding the government. Passing a budget, you name it. So every day that we're in this, it becomes harder to keep the government funded and open.
Yeah.
And I come back to, look, we have to have some sort of deal to move forward, because the bipartisan group that A, kept the government open, and B, in the summer passed the bill that avoided default, that bill included a budget deal.
Yeah.
We honor the deal. We have a path out of this. Everyone's known that for a while. And I think that's why I keep saying, if some Republicans who aren't out of their minds join us, we have the basic framework for a deal to get through this crisis.
Yeah. And you don't need many. I mean, you guys are a solid block at 212. You haven't wavered on that. You're supporting Leader Jeffries, which is remarkable to watch and see, and it's wonderful to watch as a spectator, seeing Leader Jeffries and former Speaker Pelosi, lockstep as partners on all this. I mean, the Democratic caucus is doing their job while the insanity reigns across either aisle. And that leads us to Israel. I mean, obviously, we want to help. The president's promised $100 million in aid to the people of Palestine. I want to make that very clear when I say that. The people of Palestine and people of Gaza who are suffering under this. We're seeing a very clear, it's a rare moment. The president was just overseas. We can't help them right now.
No, we can't take up any what we would call supplemental, right? A package to provide some additional assistance, whether it's for security assistance to our friends in Israel, humanitarian relief to people in Gaza.
Yeah.
We can't do any of it because the House is shut down because of this Republican civil war.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of costs of this dysfunction. And by the way, we need to take up those things. We need to take up security assistance for Ukraine. We got to work through the budget and so much else. And that, that's the real harm here.
Yeah.
This is not just political parlor games that, Republican caucus or conference is playing in smoky rooms. These have real consequences for people's lives and what the United States can do as a government.
Yeah, I did a story about a week ago, during the week last week, about because if you remember in the early days, the Hamas horrible terrorist attack, a lot of the Republicans are saying, well, this is because Biden's been projecting weakness. I think with a week we find that just isn't the case, right? Mr. Biden flew over to Israel. You guys are doing what you can do. The projection of weakness now is that a Republican Party incapable of governing, right?
they are what is standing in the way of any additional support and security assistance to our friends in Israel.
Yeah.
Bottom line. And they know it. I think it is one of the many reasons why they got to come work out a deal with us if they can't get their act together, which they clearly can't.
Do you talk to any of your colleagues on the right, or are we in a place now where you guys can't have these conversations at all? I mean, there was a time when you guys had conversations. It feels like we're not in that place anymore.
Look, I think they still happen. And I'm not going to play out all the negotiations and the rest, but like plenty of my colleagues, Democratic colleagues, and myself included, we are making it clear to our Republican counterparts that there's a way out of this. We're extending a hand here. Let's put together some kind of coalition. I think they know. I think the question is when they are willing to actually come start working with us and get out of the infighting they're having in their own house.
Yeah,
that's the question. I don't have an answer to that one yet.
Yeah, I saw you did tweet out like one of the colleagues over there said, "Hey, and it's time to talk about empowering the pro tem." And I think you tweeted out a simple thing like, "Let's talk," because it is about talking.
Listen, that's it. Like we're not saying yes or no to deals over Twitter,
right?
But like we're making clear in public and private, like let's have the discussion, let's have these negotiations, let's go. I think that's what the people I represent from Pennsylvania expect.
Yeah.
They don't want this house shut down.
Yeah.
As I keep saying, the Republicans are in the majority. If they cannot govern their own majority, the only way out of this is to work with us.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this has to go.
Yeah. It's comical to blame Democrats for any of it when they'd never do the same. It's funny seeing some of them say things like that, and it just the lack of self-awareness. Off the hotter topics. You're a veteran like me. You're a Iraq veteran, which I love. You did civil affairs. I did that. I was up in Q West. I was one of the founding fathers of Q West in northern Iraq. If you're familiar, I actually built a lot of stuff around Q West. You've been over there. You sit in the Veterans Affairs Committee. You guys have been doing some substantive stuff just in this 8-10 months you've been there. If we can get this stuff figured out, what's next for you, for our veterans and for our brothers and sisters?
Yeah, look, I sought out service on the Veterans Affairs Committee. Yeah. I get my health care at the VA. Yeah. This is one of my most important issues to work on for our fellow veterans. And, you've paid attention to this stuff. President Biden signed the PACT Act last year, which extended a bunch of really important earned benefits for veterans of our generation and the wars that we all served in, and even Vietnam era folks, right? You've been exposed to burn pits or toxic substances. So we've focused a lot in the committee on making sure we implement this law. The VA implements the law well, that we don't miss this chance to get veterans who are eligible into the VA, getting the benefits they've earned. I mean, that is one of our top priorities. I've been worried about, beyond the PACT Act, all of this growth, ballooning cost, frankly, for care that's outside in the community relative to what care is costing within VA.
Yes.
And whether we have adequate oversight out in the community, I don't think we do. It's not nearly the same level of scrutiny you see within VA. So I'm making sure that we're taking care of veterans wherever they're getting their care, whether it's in the VA or somewhere out in town, and a bunch of other issues. But I come back to, we can't do anything in the Congress right now, really nothing, until there is a speaker. And that is the real cost of what the Republicans have put us through, whether it's issues around veterans, whether it's some of the stuff we've talked about overseas, all of it. We can't proceed. There's not a vote on any bill, nothing. The least controversial thing that would get every vote in the House can't go to the floor. And that's a problem. It's a real problem. And it is on every issue, it's gonna hurt this country. And
again, and going back, and I'll wrap this up because I know you have to go do like congressman stuff, whatever that is, like I said, with you and Pat Ryan writing your op-ed, another, like I said, at West Point grad, you were the kind of guys who went up there to serve, and now you find yourself in a position where you're painfully aware, and you're hearing from your constituents, I'm sure. Where's the service now?
Yeah, and that's the thrust of what Congressman Ryan and I were saying in our op-ed, but I say every chance I can get. This is the kind of moment where you have to actually put action behind words like country over party. Yeah. This is right now. This is the time.
Yeah.
Our government is dysfunctional because of this Republican Civil War. So if you are someone who talks about patriotism, loving this country, putting that love of country over party, the moment is now. This is when you have to do something brave. And if we have political cowardice, if we have people being partisan hacks in this moment, as we've seen throughout too much of recent history, well, it tells you something about those politicians. Yeah. So I keep saying this is the moment to live those things we hear people talk about. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I've talked about it. I've said it publicly and privately. Let's work out a deal, and we'll see if our Republican friends take us up on it, because so far they haven't.
Well, for the good of all of us, I hope somebody does, and
Me too.
I've become a cynic. I've been a Democrat for a while now, but it is a joy to see our own colleagues doing the right thing and sticking together. But I do dream of that. That weird streak of optimism that maybe at some point they will figure it out and put country above party. So, well, sir, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, especially in the middle of all this craziness. I know it's been nutty. Good luck up there. Keep your head up. We really appreciate your work.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. See you later. Did you know that poor sleep can cause weight gain, mood issues, poor mental health, and lower productivity? Sleep is the foundation of our mental and physical health and performance in our days. Having a consistent nighttime routine is non-negotiable. And let me tell you something. When I don't get enough sleep, you do not want to be around me the next day, I assure you. I'm excited to introduce you to Beam Dream. You may have heard your friends and other hosts on MeidasTouch talk about Beam's Dream Powder, and this is their healthy hot cocoa for sleep. And today, our listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, their best-selling healthy hot cocoa for sleep with no added sugar. It's now available in delicious flavors like sea salt caramel, cinnamon cocoa, chocolate peanut butter. I love peanut butter, and better sleep has never tasted better. Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, melatonin, and nano CBD to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. A recent clinical study revealed Dream helped 93% of users wake up feeling more refreshed, and 93% reported that Dream helped them get a more restful night's sleep. So you just mix Beam Dream with hot water or milk, or stir and froth it all together and enjoy it before your bedtime. I've personally tried Beam Dream and lived up to the hype. First off, it was delicious and just a lovely nighttime routine. And secondly, most importantly, helped me fall asleep and stay asleep. The next day, I woke up ready and eager to take on the day. Find out why Forbes and the New York Times are all talking about Beam and why it's trusted by the world's top athletes and business professionals. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Fred and use code Fred at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Fred. Use code Fred for up to 40% off. Thank you, Beam, for being a support of our show. I was the youngest of 4 kids growing up. Okay. You know what that means if you come from a large family. It means you're the trash guy. Okay. I was the guy who tied those bags up with the rotting food, from big family dinners or the lunchbox meals that didn't get eaten from 4 kids. It was gross. I hated the job, and I still do. Now I'm an adult and I've got a huge garden at my home, and I'm obsessed with growing my own food. Now, adding Lomi to my home has been so eye-opening for me, and it's completely changed how I view my food waste and what I can do to help the environment. Lomi transforms my garbage to gold at the push of a button. Lomi is a countertop electric composter that turns food scraps to dirt in just 4 hours. Now, I love composting now. Plus, it's made cooking at home even more fun. There's no food rotting and smelling up the kitchen or attracting critters in the garbage outside. Thanks to Lomi, I only have to take out the trash about once a week, and it's, kind of hassle-free and mess-free finally. No more leaking bags like I had in my youth. It's much cleaner now. Now here's the cool part for me too. I turn my waste into nutrient-rich earth and dirt that I can feed my plants and, as I mentioned, my huge garden. And that means it's not going to landfills. It's not producing methane gas. What it is producing is tomatoes that my local squirrels eat, but I still do produce tomatoes. So I get to help the environment and make my life easier. Now, all my food scraps, plant clippings, and even those leftovers I forgot in the back of the fridge go back into my garden, helping me grow more nutritious food right there. Now, Lomi's new app also lets me track my environmental impact, earn points for every cycle, redeem for freebies from Lomi, and other great brands. So it feels great to know that I'm creating Lomi Earth instead of waste. With it, I have basically a limitless supply of plant food for my garden, plus I'm helping save the planet. Now, when you want to start making a positive environmental impact or just grow a beautiful garden like I am, Lomi is perfect for you. So head to lomi.com/Fred and use the promo code Fred to get $50 off your Lomi. That's $50 when you head to lomi.com/Fred and use promo code Fred at checkout. Thank you, Lomi, for sponsoring this episode. Hey, look, everyone knows how annoying cheap razors are. The cuts, the irritation, the frustration, and don't get me started on subscription razor services. The headaches they can cause if they show up on your doorstep. That's why you got to meet Hensen Shaving. Hensen Shaving is a family-owned aerospace parts manufacturer that's made parts of the ISS and the Mars rover, and now they're bringing precision engineering to your shaving experience. And I'm an old pilot, so I love me some aerospace manufacturing, let me tell you. Now, razor blades are like diving boards. The longer the board, the more wobble. The more wobble, the more nicks, cuts, and scrapes. A bad shave isn't a blade problem, it's an extension problem. By using aerospace-grade CNC machines, Hensen makes metal razors that extend just 0.0013 inches, which is less than the width of a hair. That means a secure and stable blade with a vibration-free shave. It gets better. The razor has built-in channels to evacuate hair and cream and makes clogging virtually impossible. So seriously, Hensen Shaving wants the best razor, not the best razor business. That means no plastic, no subscriptions, no proprietary blades, and no planned obsolescence. The Hensen razor works with standard dual-edged razor blades to give you that old school shave, like me, with the benefits of new school tech. So once you own a Hensen razor, it's only about, $3 to $5 per year to replace the blades. So I'll tell you, I don't shave often, obviously. But my first shave with the Hensen razor was incredibly refreshing. The design is sleek and the durability is top notch. The Hensen razor is truly so much better than your run-of-the-mill razor, and it's the quote-unquote traditional razor brand that you're used to. Now, the affordability factor is absolutely game-changing. No more wasting your money on expensive blades. With Hensen Shaving, you can get like a year of blades for around $5. So it's time to say no to subscriptions, say yes to a razor that's lasts you a lifetime. Visit hensenshaving.com/Fred to pick the razor for you and use code FRED, and you'll get 2 years worth of blades free with your razor. Just make sure to add them to your cart. 2 years of blades. So that's 100 free blades when you head to hensonshaving.com/Fred and use code FRED when you're there. Check them out. Great conversation. Can I tell you guys a secret that don't tell anybody? There's probably only 100,000 people going to watch this. I love this gig, right? It's the chance to be able to talk to a serving member of Congress, someone with honor like Mr. Deluzio and others who take a moment. I mean, don't you love the fact they take a minute? Look, I'm not MSNBC. I'm not a big time TV host, right? I just enjoy the fact that we've got members, we've got elected officials who are willing to take a minute and talk to us, talk to our audience, talk to you, shoot it straight. So, man, I hope you enjoy this as much as I do. If you don't, I'm sorry. I'm having a great time. I want to talk as we walk out of that. I do want to talk about an aspect of this war. So for those who don't know, I was a public affairs officer in my last job. So most of my career in the Army was actually spent as a pilot. I was a helicopter pilot in various helicopter jobs. I was an officer, 101st Airborne. You see a sticker on my my computer here. So for most of my career, that's what I did. I was a scout helicopter pilot for Desert Storm. And then I stayed in what we call attack helicopter world with Apaches. I was an operations officer helping them. And then I actually briefly got out of the Army and came back in after 9/11. I joined the reserves, and then they threw a war and invited all my friends. So I went too, because all the cool kids were going to war. I went back, served in Iraq. I was with the Black Hawk unit, though. You're familiar with the 101st Airborne. We were Air Assault Battalion, or a General Support Battalion. While I was in Iraq, I ended up on TV because there was some stuff I did while I was a civilian. Anyway, long story short, General Petraeus ended up making me a public affairs officer. So the latter part of my career in the Army, the last 4 or 5 years, was spent serving as a public affairs officer. So my job was essentially to communicate the activities of the United States. The way we frame it is the mission of the public affairs is to communicate the activities of the United States military to the civilian population. My job is not to lie to you. My job is to get things straight. And I bring this up because one of my passions as a public affairs officer was getting the truth right. I used to say in Iraq that if the media got something wrong, the media didn't get in trouble, right? It was us. It was the military that got in trouble. There was an example given where we had a firefight in Western Iraq. Our friends at Fox News announced, because they're big cheerleaders, they're friendly media. They announced that we had killed like 25 terrorists, and it was all this big thing. In the end, the truth of the matter was it was maybe 2 people actually killed. Actually, in the whole firefight, was blown up more, because you'll find the fog of war, which is where we're going, that the truth wasn't accurate. And what was the interesting thing about it was Fox News didn't get in trouble. The Marine Corps did about this, about getting it wrong. right? Because they were pumping up their numbers, even knowing they had fed the numbers right. They just had acted too soon. And so a lesson I learned early is that the fog of war will cloud the truth. And there's an old saying that the first casualty of war is the truth. And no more is that the case than it is today with instantaneous communications. Like, look, there was a time in World War II, I had to send a telegram back to America to the news. There was no breaking news in the 1940s. Even in the 60s, in the Vietnam era, everybody had to wait till Walter Cronkite come on at night to get the news of what was happening in Vietnam. Today, we're literally watching battles in real time. I watched the unfolding assault on Osama bin Laden's compound on Twitter, because maybe you don't remember, the first indications we were going after Osama bin Laden was people who lived in that Pakistani town were tweeting out pictures of a fire, like bullets in the air, and the fact they heard helicopters flying over. That was the first world news that came out about the assault on Osama bin Laden and killing him finally, was through Twitter. So there's instantaneous news. I mention this because this week we had a really bad example of that, and the example given was that a hospital in Gaza was struck, and Hamas put out almost immediately, within minutes, that 500 civilians have been killed when Israel conducted an airstrike on a hospital. And news organizations ran with that. We have had riots. We have had demonstrations. Mr. Biden's meeting with the Arab leadership as part of his trip this week was canceled immediately because Israel had bombed a hospital and 500 had died. And I tweeted out at the time, I said, look, the number one lesson I walked away from serving 2 tours in combat as a high-level public affairs officer. I worked for a 3-star general. Okay, I worked for the Minister of Defense of Iraq. I was his advisor for the Minister of Defense of Iraq. That's the level I worked at in Iraq, folks. Okay, it wasn't low. The lesson I learned was first reports are always wrong, and you've got to get it right. And we will pay the price. The good people will pay the price if it's wrong. And unfortunately, many media organizations and pundits and people I hold dear ran with the story that Israel had knowingly bombed a hospital. When the truth is, a rocket was launched from a cemetery in Gaza. It went up. It failed, as they do, because a lot of these are not well stored. They're not well built. It failed. It landed in the parking lot of that hospital. And by morning, we could see, look, I've been in the Army a long time, okay? I've been to war 4 times. I know what a bomb hole looks like. I know what a rocket hole looks like because they used to land in my compound. My God, my last tour in Iraq, y'all, when I arrived, the trailer next to mine had been taken out by a rocket the day before. It was still smoking. Okay, a rocket fire from Sadr City. I know the difference between a rocket and a bomb, and that was a rocket. And unfortunately, by that point, the cat was out of the bag. That the anger is still going. The Arab world is still afire right now over a report from the very organization that orchestrated the terrorist attack that killed 1,300 civilians, and as holding possibly 150 or more as hostages. That organization was what many people took as the trusted source on an attack. So, look, I'm not picking sides here, okay? Anyway, Israel, brutal assault. Israel's got its own reasons. Mr. Biden's doing a very good job. I will say that the Biden administration is doing an incredible job in an incredibly dangerous situation while they have no House of Representatives to help them in any way. They're doing as much as they can do, and I will not fault them for what they're doing. Israel's angry, and I can't blame them for that. But my God, folks, we must do better. Do better. You can be angry at Israel, but not believe fucking Hamas. Okay? You can be angry at Hamas, okay? But my God, the truth will get people killed in these wars. Acting on lies causes things like a riot occurring in Jordan. There was a synagogue was burned in Tunisia to the ground over that accusation that a hospital had been purposely bombed by Israel. We got to do better. So before you see stuff like that, before you see these reports, don't share them. Don't highlight them. I'm not saying you're going to believe the truth will come out, but give it a minute. Just take a breath and let the truth work its way out. Because I've been to war. And I've seen it in real time, how the truth is very, very blurry. And the fog of war is very real. And I just hope that you, as a discerning audience of media, will take that to heart and not fall for the bullshit. And with that, I think I've talked about enough. A great show with Congressman Deluzio. Really can't appreciate him enough. Thank you for joining as always. As you know, I'm just so proud of you guys. By the way, I don't know what happened last week, but y'all joined Forgotten Democrats. I love it. We are getting more people to join the community. We're going to have a Zoom here, one of our monthly Zooms. We haven't done enough because it's been so crazy to talk about the community, ways you can help those who are running for office in the hardest places. But if you haven't caught it already, Forgotten Democrats, I'm so proud to be the national chairman. I serve a spokesman, if you will, talking about how this unique model is simply, it's a simple one. There's no fancy ads. We're not going to run, what they call, ads or that kind of stuff. We're not going to do any of that kind of stuff. The goal literally is you give monthly, you join our community. The money is then earmarked and distributed amongst multiple candidates from those who need it most first. Set each month by as we get as the nominees are designated, figure out how much money we have on hand, and then give money directly to candidates from you. So I tell you, it's a great organization. I hope you'll check it out. That's ForgottenDemocrats.com. And of course, you can join our email list with simply texting Fred to 33777. As always, we're so proud to be part of the MeidasTouch network. It would help us a million if you'd like, share, comment, go to Apple and Spotify, like, share, comment, join, subscribe. We love having you part of our community. As always, I'll be here watching the show with you on Friday night. So say hi. It's always a pleasure just to hang out with you guys and be a part of this community. And with that, have an amazing week. Hopefully, Matt, I'm going to do it. I'm going to hopefully change. This is my dream, y'all. Next week, I'm going to change the opening sentence of this show from chaos on DC, President Biden's going around the world fixing it. Would it be great not to have that be the opening line of the show? Let's see if it happens. Let's all take bets. Put bets in the comments. I know it's not going to happen. Matt's back here shaking his head, which he never does. I can't tell you guys how often I point out Matt and he never participates. And he just ignores me because he's head down. So, all right. Well, anyway, we're going to put him on camera one of these days. We got to get camera back there with you, Matt. Anyway, so people actually believe he exists. With that, man, what a great week. Have a great week. It's still great to be American. It's a great time. It's beautiful fall weather. Get out there, enjoy Halloween in a week. We'll talk to you soon.